little different to be in person. That's good. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Appreciate it very, very much. The last few weeks, I've spent some time talking with some of our chiefs of police around the state, as well as talking with some law enforcement officers, rank and file, who are out there every single day. One of the concerns that I hear from law enforcement is morale, low morale, and a real concern expressed by the chiefs, but also by officers who are out there every single day about more officers retiring and fewer people who are coming forward to serve. I've talked with officers, frankly, whose commitment to law enforcement goes back generations, third generation sometimes. But some of them are telling their own kids, don't get into law enforcement. One chief told me that they recently offered the civil service test, and although they typically have around 200 candidates, this year they had a mere 37. The inability of law enforcement agencies to recruit and retain qualified and professional officers, if this trend line continues, it certainly is not good. Failure to keep the ranks of our law enforcement agencies full has the potential to create a public safety crisis in this state. During this time where we are seeing more violence, that is an additional challenge, an additional problem. In June of last year, we created the Ohio Office of Law Enforcement Recruitment to help local agencies address these very issues and to assist them in recruiting good candidates qualified for the job, particularly minorities. Sarah Shendy, the director of that office, will talk in just a few more minutes about the immediate efforts that the office is undertaking to help law enforcement with recruitment and to help law enforcement with retention. But first, I'd like to announce a new long-term project we're launching. The project is to recruit law enforcement candidates and to equip them with the skills they need for a successful career before they ever put on a badge. The Office of Law Enforcement Recruitment's new College to Law Enforcement Pathway Program, College to Law Enforcement Pathway Program, will connect criminal justice programs at colleges and universities in Ohio with law enforcement agencies across the state to mold our next generation of law enforcement leaders. By linking criminal justice majors with seasoned law enforcement mentors during the students' junior and senior year in college will really, I think, go a long, long way. It will give these majors some real-world experience. It will be similar to it is in fact a mentoring program. You could even refer to it as a co-op, where they'll actually go out and be with these law enforcement mentors. They will be guaranteed as part of the program a job as soon as they graduate. A couple of weeks ago, I had the chance to discuss this entry-level leadership development program with a group of chiefs and mayors. They were very excited about the prospect of this program. We are going to start with a pilot project that will involve Cedarville University and Central State University. We're grateful to have representatives from participating law enforcement agencies here today, as well as several members of the Office of Law Enforcement Recruitment's working group that worked to develop this program. We also have representatives from both universities here, including Dr. Virginia Redmond from Central State and Dr. Patrick Oliver from Cedarville University. Let me also mention Dr. Oliver has been a consultant to our office for some time, a consultant to our recruitment office, and he will give more details about this pilot project. So let me first turn to Dr. Oliver.
The College to Law Enforcement academic program's goal is to create a pool of highly qualified college graduates that include minorities and women for participating law enforcement agencies in the state of Ohio. The Office of Law Enforcement Recruitment wanted to reimagine how to identify, select, and develop entry-level law enforcement leaders. We decided to focus on college students because there is research evidence to support several advantages to hiring college graduates. The following are among the most significant advantages: the positive relationship between college education and job performance, supervisory ratings, and promotion. College education does not have an adverse impact on the recruitment or retention of minority candidates. College education enhances critical thinking skills. College education develops the ability to relate to the community effectively. And college education enhances one's ability to be a leader. The College to Law Enforcement academic program represents just one method to improve the recruitment, selection, and retention of law enforcement officers in the state of Ohio. This program does not prevent law enforcement agencies involved in a pilot study from hiring the majority of their officers using the current hiring process. It simply provides another opportunity for access to suitable, quality law enforcement candidates. No person within or outside law enforcement profession can predict with complete accuracy the challenges law enforcement will face even 5 years from now. However, if the profession hires quality people, they will be prepared to meet those challenges while providing service with integrity. The quality of law enforcement service in the community will always be equal to the quality of law enforcement officers that serve that community. No amount of organizational skill or equipment can replace the human relations skills of the individual officer. The hiring of a law enforcement officer is the single most important function of any law enforcement agency. It is the mission of the Office of Law Enforcement Recruitment to assist Ohio law enforcement agencies with this most important task. Here's a list of law enforcement agencies who made a soft commitment to the College to Law Enforcement academic program. It's not official commitment because all of these agencies have been asked to make a rule change to be able to hire graduates to this program. The following agencies have agreed to be a part of this program as long as they can make the rule change. And I don't know if, Governor, you wanted to mention those. I'll let the Governor mention those agencies, but those agencies are, most of them are present here, and many of the leaders of those agencies are present here today. And so also present, once again, are Dr. Virginia Redmond, Dr. Brad Buckmeyer from Central State University, and Dr. Mark Smith from Cedarville University. So, Governor, I'll let you mention those agencies. Thank you.
Doctor, thank you very much. Dr. Oliver, let me just say, has advised us for some time. He is a true expert in the area of minority recruitment, and he has written a number of articles in regard to this, and is a real, as I said, a real expert. We now have 11 agencies that have expressed a desire to be part of this. These are Franklin County Sheriff's Office, the Xenia Police Department, the Beaver Creek Police Department, Westchester Police Department, Lancaster Police Department, Lebanon Police Department, the Dublin Police Department, Fairfield Township Police Department, Fairview Park Police Department, the Ohio State Highway Patrol, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Division of Parks and Watercraft, and the Reynoldsburg Police Department. Here to talk about the involvement of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office is David Masterson, the Sheriff's Director of Administrative Services. David, thank you.
Good morning. As mentioned, my name is Dave Masterson, the Director of Administrative Services for the Franklin County Sheriff's Office. Part of my role is oversight of our human resources. The Sheriff's Office is committed to developing and implementing the best recruitment and hiring practices available in order to serve every resident of Franklin County. We're always looking for avenues that afford us the opportunity to engage more candidates as potential employees with our office. And on behalf of Sheriff Dallas Baldwin, we're pleased to be accepted as a partnering agency for the College to Law Enforcement Program pilot project. We believe that our experience and expertise can be mutually beneficial as the program continues to grow. And one of the main things that drew us to this project is we love the fact that while we continue our traditional hiring processes, we know that this particular process with the two partnerships with the two universities is ongoing in the background, and at the end of it, we're going to have viable, vetted candidates that we can offer employment to.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So again, this is a long-term program that helps criminal justice majors develop their skills, and it does it in the combination of the academic as well as actually being out with officers. We also know there's an urgent need for qualified candidates right now. I'm going to now ask Sarah Shendy can talk about some of the other initiatives that we've been working on to help law enforcement agencies recruit qualified officers. Sarah?
And Governor DeWine, thank you for the introduction. So I'm going to just talk about a few of some of the short-term things that the Office of Law Enforcement Recruitment is doing on a daily basis. I would like to say Monday through Friday, but I'm going to extend it to Monday through Sunday to help police departments find and attract those qualified applicants. First thing that I want to mention is we have monthly newsletters, and they do address topics under the umbrella of the selection, retention, and recruitment of law enforcement officers. Governor DeWine announced a couple weeks ago our upcoming grant program that's going to be available to help out these departments. Our website is up and running. If you have not checked that out, please do. It has a lot of good and valuable information for those who are interested in entering the law enforcement profession. Dr. Oliver and I have been speaking at conferences. We have also the Attorney General's Conference coming up in October, and yesterday I spoke at the School Resource Officer Conference on how police officers in schools also impact recruitment in the state of Ohio. Twice a month we hold educational webinars, again, covering the same three topics: selection, retention, and recruitment of police officers. And those webinars are free, and they have been very well attended. And we are promoting the Grow Your Own program, which Dr. Oliver talks about in one of his books. To target more minorities and women, we have a couple of women empowerment panels that are scheduled to go out on webinar as well, and those usually involve Q&A to talk to women that are in supervisory positions in law enforcement. We also do one-on-one with police departments in terms of if they need help with their recruitment strategies. We do one-on-one with colleges. The two colleges that I have worked with the most have been Kent State University and the University of Akron. And I've also done engagements virtually and in person with open enrollment academies. The last two things that I'm going to mention are my efforts with speaking to youth police academies around the state of Ohio. And I think the most valuable thing and my favorite thing to do is the one-on-one guidance and mentorship to cadets and our potential recruits that want to come into law enforcement. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you very, very much. We continue to work with the state legislature. This is budget season, and there are a number of initiatives that were in our proposed budget and that we hope will be included in the final budget passed by the state legislature. One of these is to direct more funding to the Ohio Law Enforcement Recruitment Office. The funding would create a new grant program to fund innovative ideas at the local level to recruit female and minority officers. Things like law enforcement, also like law enforcement academy scholarships, law enforcement explorer posts, police athletic leagues, K through 12 mentoring programs. All of these things play a role ultimately in recruitment. The earlier you can reach a young person, get them interested in law enforcement or in any profession, the better chance there is that that person will end up in that profession. We're also working hard through the budget to give our officers the tools they need to help reduce violent crime in our communities. We continue to hear from law enforcement officers that it's a small number of the criminal element that causes most of the violent crime. We also have data that clearly shows this. The budget that the legislature is working on right now, we hope will include funding for violent crime reduction grants that can be used by agencies to implement new violent reduction strategies such as gunshot detection technology, expansion of safe streets task forces, and other innovative local violent crime reduction initiatives. We also plan to support our local law enforcement agencies through the new budget by expanding our Ohio School Safety Center, as well as the Ohio Narcotics Intelligence Center, or as we call it, ONIC. By expanding the ONIC, we'll also be able to increase analysts' investigative capacity to assist law enforcement in cases where violent crime is linked to narcotics trafficking, as it is many times. We also intend to expand the ONIC's capabilities so that we can provide that level of service all across the state of Ohio to every law enforcement agency. Our job is to help and support Ohio's local law enforcement with the resources and the assistance that they need. And what we're announcing today, we believe, will be of significant help. Now, happy to take any questions.
Governor, you mentioned about incentives, about the grant program. Can you elaborate a little bit more, especially for the young folks that are watching, why they should even join the law enforcement in the first place since morale is pretty low?
Well, it's probably better coming from someone who is in law enforcement. I don't know if anyone wants to take on that question. You want to take it?
Sure.
You might tell them about your. Why don't you,
Sure.
Sarah, tell them about your law enforcement background, though.
Sure. I've been with the Copley Police Department since 2008, and I say this phrase almost every single day: this is the best job on the planet. It is the most fulfilling. A lot of people think about leaving behind a legacy. As a police officer, you get to see your legacy within your community and within the kids that you interact with. So I do understand that this is a very rough time for law enforcement, but that's when leaders rise. And as I mentioned in the SRO conference yesterday, every single police officer in uniform is a leader, because every single time we're out in the community, we do have the potential of impacting lives and changing lives. And although there are many professions in this great country of ours where lives are changed and saved every day, from teachers to doctors, no one does it under the conditions in which law enforcement operates every single day. 365 days a year, 24/7, we're out there making sure everybody is safe. So an incentive would be the fact that it's the best and most honorable profession on the planet, and you don't question if you're making a difference in someone's life. You go to bed knowing that you made a difference in someone's life. You may have saved someone's life that day, and that's unbeatable. So to me, that's a big enough incentive. Everything else is a plus.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Who else?
The Ohio Supreme Court has ruled that teachers cannot share firearms without police training. So, all the members of law enforcement here, love to hear some reaction to that.
Anyone? Supreme Court decision just came out. I've not had a chance to read it. I just saw the headline, which is basically what you said, so I don't have any additional comment until I have a chance to actually look at the Supreme Court decision. I don't know if anyone else has a comment.
Governor, is there a component of the pilot program that might address implicit bias? Is there something built into this that
Yeah, let me ask. You want to take that, Doctor?
We will have workshops for all of the candidates accepted into the program. So we'll be touching on contemporary law enforcement issues, and preventing bias-based policing will absolutely be one of them. So yes.
How many students do you think to enroll in this first iteration of the pilot?
Well, Central State University has about 200 students. Cedarville University has about 50 students that are criminal justice majors. It's for traditional criminal justice majors only, and it's a pretty rigorous qualification process. So we'll take as many students that can get through the process.
There's an academic. You might talk to them a little bit, Doctor, about maybe some of the qualifications they have to hit.
The pre-qualifications is they have to have a 3.0 grade point average. They have to meet our attendance requirements. They have to be students of high moral character. We have 6 core values. They are going to be interviewed by faculty at each of the universities. Those are the pre-qualifications. If they meet those, then they can apply to the program. Once they apply to the program, they're going to get a personal history questionnaire followed by a full, complete background investigation, followed by a polygraph, physical fitness testing, psychological, medical. They'll have to take a career assessment. So it's going to be a very extensive, rigorous process to get in this program. I think it'll probably have a fairly high elimination rate, but we are raising standards, not lowering standards. We want to get the very best college students to be in this program so that they can be hired by the agencies represented here today.
Is there a parallel with the, thinking of the college programs like junior ROTC? You get the kids in the pipeline, you show them what that career is going to look like, benefits, and then make that transition into their profession. Is there a parallel here?
The parallel is as you described it. That's correct. There's some additional things that they don't do, but that parallel is correct.
And how great is the uniqueness of this program? I know you're the first in Ohio, but there are any other states who do this?
This has never been done before. And so we're going to try something that's new and that's different, and we're very excited about it. So we're going to take college students, the very best, and prepare them for a career in law enforcement.
Is this a common career path for criminal justice majors to begin with, or is it unusual for criminal justice majors to go into law enforcement?
I don't know what the stats say on that, but certainly I would suspect that law enforcement of the 3 areas of concentration, law enforcement, courts, and corrections, seems to be the most dominant focus of college students who major in criminal justice.
I guess what I'm wondering is, if this is already a career path for them, then what does this program do to kind of push them more into the direction of law enforcement? Is that what it does then?
Well, this is really an honors academic program. We're going to take the very best students, we're going to mentor them, we're going to train them, we're going to develop them, and they'll be virtually guaranteed a job when they graduate. So it's a special opportunity for them.
So when they graduate, will they be like a lieutenant? You know, is that the incentive, like, or how does it be more salary?
It's an entry-level law enforcement program, so they'll go into being a police officer. They could end up on Ohio State Highway Patrol. They could end up with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. They could end up with Reynoldsburg PD, Fairview Park PD, any of the law enforcement agencies represented here in Ohio today, because all those agencies are participants.
Let me add something to that, Patrick. I think this is consistent with what we're doing more and more of every day, and that is to try to link education to the real world. Had the opportunity to speak yesterday to the new president of Ohio University. I've talked to several other presidents recently of our colleges and universities about this. And they are looking more and more to linking their students while they're still in college with businesses and getting these young people into internships, getting them into situations where they are actually working in that different profession or that particular business. I think there's no substitute. If you want to know whether a profession is what you really want to go into, being immersed in it is an excellent way of doing that. And I think, again, there's a real trend line, even from high school, college, with all kinds of different professions to try to get the students actually out with that profession or with that particular business. And so I think this is consistent with what we are doing in other areas as well.
Governor, last summer you talked about getting better candidates and quite a few pieces of law enforcement reform. How much has been done on those points in the past year? Is this kind of the first step? Do you think there are still other reform that's needed in law enforcement?
Well, that's multiple questions. Look, we've been able to do many things. I'm going to let Patrick talk about for a moment after I do. But we also have a bill pending in the legislature, as you know, and that bill is focused on police reform. It is focused on treating law enforcement as the profession that it truly is. So once the budget is done and the legislature comes back in the fall, I'm hopeful that they will focus on that bill because this is a bill that I think has real bipartisan support. I think it has support from communities. I think it also has support from law enforcement. So that reform bill is still pending in the legislature. So Patrick, I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Governor, can I
Or
say
Sarah,
something?
you can.
So I also wanted to add, in addition to what was said, that as a law enforcement profession, we can't wait on bills. We can't wait on massive change. We reform every single day. We reform after every encounter that could have gone better, after every traffic stop that could have been handled differently, after every, maybe a phrase was said on a domestic violence call that shouldn't have been said. We have to reform is incumbent upon us as individual officers, as departments. So all the things that are going on a larger level are great, and they absolutely help us, and we do need them. But reform is a personal responsibility, and it is something when we say law enforcement reform, I want you to think about we reform after every single encounter because we're human and we make mistakes, and we have to evaluate our decision making and say, okay, next time I'm not going to do this because it didn't work well. I'm going to do things this way. So we are in charge of our reform and also each other's.
Do you think enough's been done over the past year to change after we saw so much unrest across Ohio when they called for change in law enforcement? Has enough been done? Has enough been reformed?
Sure. So I don't think that we can ever do enough. I think this is an endless goal that we will always be pursuing, but I do believe that because of all of the hard conversations that we've had across the country, especially here in the state of Ohio, some of which I've been involved with, we are changing hearts within our profession as well as within communities. So yes, I do think that we have come a long way, and again, it's an everyday thing.
When you look back at some of the incidents that have happened across the country over the last year or the last recent number of years, how disheartening is it for you and your fellow members of law enforcement to basically carry that stigma from other officers that have made other mistakes while there's other law enforcement officers that are doing the job the right way every single day?
Sure, and without commenting on any instances in specific, I will tell you that, it goes without saying that the majority of officers are in this profession for the right reason, and it does feel very heavy to carry some days, but every single day we have to lead by example. We have to go out there, we have to do what's right, we have to do what's expected of us. And I have had people, young and old, black and white, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, say, when I see a cruiser, I feel scared. And it's, again, incumbent upon me, and it's my responsibility to change that in their mind. I have to be the change that I want to see. I'm not going to put that responsibility on anybody else. So it is a hard thing to carry, but again, great leaders rise during the most challenging of times like we've seen in history, and that's no different than what's happening in this country today.
Let me just add one thing. This is not an easy time to be in law enforcement. And it really is incumbent upon those of us in government and the public to make sure that law enforcement has all the tools that they need. And by all the tools, I mean training. This particular program we're talking about is a program really that's designed to develop leaders, people who are going to end up with a four-year college degree, people who will be able to have worked in law enforcement before they actually finally put on that badge. So it's exciting. It is not going to solve every problem, but it's one step forward that I think will make a big difference. But we have to continue to examine, are we doing enough to provide the training and help that law enforcement needs so that every law enforcement officer can live up to their God-given potential. That's our job.
Talking about the program, you said it's for criminal justice majors. A lot of them, if they already go into law enforcement, talk about how difficult it is to get into this program. Why would they do it? Why not just, cruise through and get their criminal justice degree and go out on their own?
Students,
It seems like it's harder.
I think people like to be challenged. They want to do something that's very difficult. This is going to be an elite academic honors program for students who want to be mentored. They want to have a field experience. They want to get special training. So it's going to be a great opportunity for them. And so I think in knowing that they're going to be guaranteed a job when they graduate, all those things are going to be a big plus for them. So I think they'll want to be a part of this.
You mentioned that this program can help increase the hiring of women in
Well, the two universities represented, Cedarville University and Central State University, have majority, minority, women, and so there's a composite of all the people that we're looking for in both those institutions.
But if they're already criminal justice majors and they're already on this career path, how does this increase hiring?
Well, the two big problems in law enforcement in regard to hiring, recruitment, selection, and retention is a top 3 issue nationally. And the two issues for law enforcement agencies are, one, we can't get enough qualified candidates through the process. And two, we can't get enough qualified minorities and women through the process. So this program addresses both of those at the same time, because we're going to recruit them, select them, train them, develop them, and then have a pool of highly qualified candidates that include both minorities and women. So it's not so much increasing the pool, but it is giving law enforcement agencies access to qualified candidates.
Governor, have you spoken with the president recently? He's supposed to be talking about just the increase in just violence across the country. I know he's supposed to be speaking with a lot of leaders in law enforcement and governors and things like that. So, any ideas you've given him of what Ohio is doing? Or, again,
I've not had any conversation with the president recently about that.
What are your thoughts on the rise in violence across Ohio? You mentioned a couple things that you hope get in the budget that could help that, but we are hearing more and more about records being broken, at least here in Columbus, for in a record-breaking year. What are you seeing and what can be done?
Well, one of the reasons I went out and to meet with law enforcement officers in the last few weeks is to really discuss directly with them what they're seeing, what they're hearing. I meet with chiefs, but I want to also, frankly, meet with rank and file officers. I met with some from the Columbus PD. I did the same thing with the Springfield PD. It is a difficult time, but we have to support law enforcement. We have to make sure that they have the training they need. We have inconsistent training in the state of Ohio. We're here in Columbus. Columbus PD has their own academy, get great training. But we have other law enforcement agencies. Not only don't they have their own academy, but they can't afford to have the officer go away for any period of time because there's only a few people on the force. We've got over 900 police departments in the state of Ohio. So, most of them are small. But if you live in a small town, if you live in a village, if you live in a township, you deserve to have the same policing as somebody that lives in a city. The same thing for the officer. That officer who works, in a small village can have a domestic violence case just as easily as an officer in a city can. So we have to we have to work more on training. Frankly, we have to put more money in training. Second, we do have initiatives in this budget that it would appear, at least at this moment, I don't count things until they're done, but it would appear that both the Senate and the House support them. And so things that I talked about there, I think will be in the final version of the budget. Third, we have a bill that when the legislature comes back in the fall, I hope that they will address, and there seems to be starting to emerge a consensus, and that is violent repeat offenders need to be locked up, and they need to be taken off of our streets. And we did a study when I was Attorney General back in 1970, 6-7 years ago now, I guess. And we went back from 1977 to the present, looked at every felony case, every felony conviction in the state. What we found is that it's exactly what police officers tell us. It's a small number of the criminal element that commits all the violent crime. So what do? We need to target those violent repeat offenders and remove them. The bill that we have will do that. It does it by saying that if you commit a crime, a violent crime, and then you're caught again with a gun, which you're not supposed to have, that the judge can impose a very significant sentence. That will help change things on the street. So there's not any one thing, but these are 3 solid things that will, in fact, make a difference.
Governor, could you talk before we end here, we talk about the Maximilian wrap-up tonight, and your impression, your analysis
What's your phone number? About 7 o'clock, so if it rings.
Your analysis of how much this has done for the state,
Yeah.
not very big, and then not at all, but the lasting impact of vaccination on getting more people to sign up.
Yeah, first of all, let me kind of describe where we are based upon my conversations with experts. Summer looks good. We're moving forward. The real concern among the experts, and we'll be bringing some of these experts to do some public, do some press conferences. But the concern is what happens in the fall and what happens in the winter. What happens when the kids go back to school? What happens when we are inside more? So those are concerns. Now, the good news is we have vaccinated a significant number of our population. We're at about, if you look at adults, we're at about 58%. The bad news is that still leaves a lot of people who are not vaccinated. If you look at our county chart, and we break this down by county, all 88 counties, and what you find is that there's some counties that are really low in vaccination rate. And so those are the areas that we worry about. School goes back in, people are moving around, they're inside more. We worry about outbreaks that will occur. We are losing, best we can tell, and deaths are lagging, so you never get the data in the right, you don't get it immediately, it's lagging. But I've asked our data people to look at this, and they told me this morning that they think we're averaging today about 14 deaths a day in Ohio from COVID. So we're not through this, is my point, Jim. We're a lot better off than we were. We have the vaccine, but we just have to do everything that we can to make the vaccine available for any Ohioan who wants it, and encourage Ohioans to take it. The Vax-A-Million was extremely successful. It was extremely successful in the first week. What it accomplished in the first week made it a success. The second week was a good week as well. After that, we assume that there continue to be some people who are getting vaccinated because of the Vax-A-Million, but clearly the impact went down after that second week. But it really punched it. We were going down like that. It took us back up, and we've had a lot of people who've been vaccinated, either who wouldn't have gotten vaccinated at all, or who were vaccinated earlier than they would have been, and that matters as well. So successful, happy with it, but you're looking at the numbers today, and we edge up every day, but we have a ways to go. And again, I'm concerned. As happy as I am to have this press conference in public, as happy as I am to go to a Cincinnati Reds baseball game, as happy as I am to go out fishing with my kids and grandkids, and do all the things that we all like to do, that I'm doing and Fran's doing. The concern is what happens in the fall. Kids are back in school. What happens when we get inside more and into the late fall and then into the winter? With the variants that are in fact out there, that is the concern.
Any other incentives in the pipeline? We said
Maybe. Maybe. Anybody else?
Just ask one last question about the program itself, and to any officers here. You guys are obviously trying to boost who exactly represents you, but what are you guys doing to improve community relations with the public? Because there's clear that there is a lack of trust between law enforcement and the public itself. Will this program help that, or are there other things that you guys are currently working on?
So that's something we work on every day. I mean, very little of what we do each day is shown to the public. But what we like to do is reiterate to the officers out there that you have to make that impact every single day. So it's not your Community Relations Bureau. It's not a specialty assignment. Each officer has to go out there every day to make an impact on the public that they serve. So we just reiterate that and make it part of our culture within our agency.
A couple examples of that, just having conversations with the community. What's the example of making that impact?
Yeah, I think there is an opportunity for an officer each and every day to have that contact, to show what we have tried to express today, which is that this is the most wonderful profession in the world. You get to make a difference in one person's life each and every call and each and every contact. But I think additionally to that, as a profession, we are also trying to lean into the conversations we heard for the last year, in particular with diverse communities who feel like they are expressing for the first time angst that they have had or concern that they have had about being protected as well in their communities. And so leaning into those conversations, I think, is critically important for us as a profession. And as an example, our department has, and our city, created a couple of community dialogues to continue that conversation as a community task force in Dublin and as a Chiefs Advisory Committee. And we've met each month with a group of, again, very diverse members of and stakeholders in our community to have those critical conversations about policies and practices and procedure and where we're going as a profession. This is a fundamental opportunity not for us to just meet the expectations of today, but to project forward to figure out what does policing look like in the future in the state of Ohio and in the U.S. And so I think leaning into those conversations, but hearing those voices who are advocating for change and progress to be seen and heard and included in those conversations is critically important, because this is not a job we can do by ourselves, nor do we want to do by ourselves. We serve the community, we protect the community with the community, and so those partnerships are fundamental for us figuring out where we're going as a profession and going in public safety as communities in the state of Ohio.
All right. Thanks, everybody.